With a small cart filled with fresh potions and Bluebell the mule to pull it, Krxp and Fable were off to the elven village of Darnassea. Settled in a large clearing of Lasmore Forest, the town appeared unattractive with its gray rooftops, chiseled stone walls, and unmaintained gardens. The village's economy was mainly supported by trade, cooking, and crafting. However, Darnassea lacked people with medical skills. It was a big deal when a guardian of herbs and healing had chosen Fable as a keeper. Being someone who came from Hollowport almost a year before, Fable was more or less infamous for that. Some praised her good fortune, and others wondered if she'd turn out like the dark sorcerer that ended the golden era of Hyria. Others still thought Fable was unfit to be a keeper, even if it wasn't their decision. Being a keeper meant that she was part of the council. However, since the position she'd take was being held by Forrest, the head of the village, she was told she was far too young to have the position. The clapping of Bluebell's hooves on the stone streets announced their arrival, Fable's ears drooping anxiously as they went, and she noticed a few faces turn their way. She knew the villagers welcomed her, though she still had a sense that she had to prove herself to them somehow. And while becoming a keeper was prestigious, she felt the villagers were waiting to see if she deserved the title. She took a slow breath and let Bluebell trot towards her little shop.
Hey, don't mind them. You'd probably be the village's best doctor with Ashling's help.
I just wanted to be a potion maker, not a doctor. You know I'm not too fond of the sight of blood. I can barely handle injuries without feeling sick.
But you're okay with illnesses, though.
Just the common stuff, like phoenix fever or the cold. Nothing major like bog blight or gut rot.
You'll get there. That's the important thing. You shouldn't doubt yourself with magic. Isn't that the base of it? Faith and trust?
I think you're mixing that with a children's story.
Perhaps, but maybe there's truth in it.
I kinda doubt that, Krxp.
Fable smiled at him as they reached her apothecary, lovingly called the Abracadabra Apothecary. She liked the ancient word for transmutation for the shop, seeing as she turned herbs into beneficial teas, tinctures, balms, and potions for everyday use. They moved Bluebell around to the back and started unloading as the mule drank some water. The inside of the shop would tickle one's nose with the scent of mixed herbs. There were jars of dried herbs for other potion makers, a small window garden of fresh herbs, and many other completed teas and whatnots. Fable loved the abracadabra, and she even made a little tea-serving nook in the corner with a few books that she couldn't fit at home for people to stop and enjoy some tea samplings.
Go ahead and turn the open sign, please. We're in for a busy day. Will you be helping out?
Wish I could, but I'm helping the smiths in the forge. They're finishing up a batch of silver brooches that need to be brought out to sell before the marketplace gets busy.
Oh, not a problem then. I should be able to handle things. How about we meet up later for the moonrise bonfire?
You bet. See you there.
The bell above the door chimed a silvery ring as he left, and he flipped the sign to open for Fable as he went. Fable watched him go, taking a slow breath. She gave her hands a clap before donning her green apron, twisting her hair back, and slipping her wand into her hair to keep it up.
Okay, let's begin.
It turned out to be a rather busy day at the Abracadabra. Elves, dwarves, and a couple other satyrs had stopped in for lunar sight potions, along with other little odds and ends for their own uses. Fable had made decent profit with the products, and once the sun began to descend below the horizon, she closed up shop and set out for a treat for herself. Darnassea was already bustling. Some elven children were playing with little paper dragons by using air magic to make them fly around and land on various things and friends. Most hunters and butchers served honey-glazed venison over a dragon flame provided by their hearth drakes. These colorful creatures were like cousins to the fox drakes, but they weren't guardians. They were more like companions. Some people used them for glass-making, others for cooking delectables. The most significant difference was that while hearth drakes could breathe fire, most fox drakes couldn't. That is, unless they were a guardian of fire. Fable smiled as she walked, purchasing a sugar-glazed apple with toffee bits. She held a basket of candied fruit as she wandered the street, the light around her turning golden as she walked in the sunset. The moonrise bonfire would start soon, and she looked around for Krxp as she moved through the town square. That is, until she felt an unwelcome presence behind her. Fable pressed her lips together and groaned.
Oh, I thought you were staying in your cottage.
Fable turned, putting on a friendly smile. At least, as close to cordial as she could muster.
Of course not, Lark. I'd never miss out on this.
Lark Starscribe, the sweetheart of Darnassea and daughter of one of the council members, was gifted in magic and its uses, and she was respected for these details. In fact, of all people that could have earned the favor of a foxdrake, it was thought to be her. So when Aisling had chosen the potion maker's new apprentice, it was shocking to the village and the council. Lark was a lovely elf with hair as rich as red wine and eyes of silver starlight, and she had the potential to be a powerful sorceress. Beside her was her friend Juniper. She was attractive with raven hair and deep purple eyes. Lark gazed at Fable, her small basket of goods, and her simple clothes in a quick but thorough assessment. Fable tried to ignore the fact that there was a stain on the bottom hem of her skirt, where a potion had splashed on her earlier that day, but she knew the daughter of the Water Council member had already taken notice and judged it.
Where's Lady Aisling?
She's with her clan.
Oh, has she grown bored of the little potion maker?
Of course not, but I don't keep her on a leash. She comes and goes as she wishes, and I'm certain the clan has its own traditions. Now, I would stay, but I'm meeting Krxp for the bonfire.
She started to turn away when she heard the clickety-clack of elf runes being shuffled. She glanced back to see Juniper open her palm and look at the runes in her hand. Juniper hummed.
The moon and the scythe. Sudden and long-term change is coming, with secrets and hidden agendas abound, as well as danger. What has been happening, Fable? Something we should know about?
Fable gulped.
I honestly couldn't tell you. I'm just here for the festivities, you know, the bonfire and all.
She stepped back from them, her quiet nature taking over before bumping into someone behind her. The tall elf raised an eyebrow at the two girls and folded his large arms.
A bonfire we should all be heading to. Especially you, Lady Lark. Aren't you supposed to be with your father on the stand?
I am, but I couldn't help but say hello to Fable.
She turned to Fable, gave a polite smile, and curtsied.
Light in your dark, Lady Keeper.
And in a flurry of silks, the two were striding away. Fable sighed and smiled at Thrush.
Thank you.
No need to thank me. Those two seem to have let their families' reputations get to their heads. Come on, you mentioned Krxp was meeting you?
Fable nodded and followed Thrush. The potions master was tall with dark earthy skin and sky blue eyes. His pointed ears held back long dark dreadlocks of hair that weren't pulled back into a half ponytail. He was Fable's second teacher when she started seeking her path. It was while apprenticing under him that she met Aisling on a foraging trip.
Don't let those two get to you. Everyone should know the lesson of you don't deserve everything, but be
glad for the blessings you have. True, but it bothers me that it bothers them so much. About me becoming a keeper. We all thought Lark would be chosen, not the potion maker's apprentice.
Well, magic is all about change and cycles. Perhaps that needs to be retaught.
Fable smiled and gave a slight nod. She could agree with that. Soon enough, the two reached the square. A large bonfire had been prepared with oak and various herbs that brought luck and prosperity. All around the square were flags, vendors, and tents for various festival services, like skin painting with patterns that made one look like their skin was stained glass, fortune-telling, and a couple of small food vendors. Fable instantly spotted Krxp. The satyr was already bouncing and waving to get her attention, getting a few looks thrown at him from passing elves and other patrons wandering joyfully through the festival. After bidding Thrush a hurried goodbye, Fable rushed to Krxp's side.
What took you so long?
I couldn't forget your sweet tooth.
Fable teased as she offered him a couple of her sugar apples. Creek grinned at her and accepted a slice.
Your tardiness is forgiven.
The crowd hushed as the council appeared behind the bonfire, all 5 wearing a robe colored in an element of their station. Sapphire stood for water, bronze for earth, gold for fire, amethyst for air, and white for soul. If Fable were to be a council member, she would have been the sole member as a keeper. And while Aisling would see her keeper given the respect she earned after being chosen, Fable was comfortable with her current arrangement. She liked her little cottage and gardens, and not bearing the weight of meeting the king himself for yearly meetings. Boris stepped forward, his white and silver robes almost reflecting the colors of the other robes around him, as he raised his hands and the village fell silent.
Welcome, my friends and neighbors, and I bid you all a happy full moon festival. As the moon reflects the sun's light in the darkest hours of the night, may our support and kindness be reflected to each other in this time. May the visions the moon brings us tonight be beneficial to further better our crafts, relationships, and paths. With this blessing, we light the fire that reminds us of the passions that burn within us all.
With that, the other 4 members held up their hands to join Forrest and summon a small flame, each holding a different hue that matched their station. Together, they laid the flames in the bonfire, catching in a radiant blaze of blues, bronze, gold, purples, and whites. The elves cheered and raised their hands in the air, some dancing as the music began to play, while the bonfire flames leaped skyward with trailing sparks. Fable applauded as the fire roared to life, and the elves, satyrs, and other travelers started dancing to bard songs. She smiled as she watched them, and finding they reflected the dancing flames in the bonfire, each different but joined in beautiful motion. She shifted on her feet a little, admiring the dance but unsure how to join in. She was still an outsider after all, and none of the elves had offered their hands for her to join. Creek smiled at the elves' dance before looking at Fable. She was watching the festivities, her thoughts elsewhere for the moment. Though he'd known Fable long enough to know she was overthinking. Seeing their treat was eaten, he took her by the hand and pulled her toward the dancing circle.
What? Creek?
Creek only laughed as he pulled her into the joyful dancing. Fable rolled her eyes and laughed as she danced with Creek, deciding to forget about Lark, being a keeper, her expectations in the village, and the politics. It was the full moon festival, a night of fun and celebration of friends and dreams of what lay ahead. Tonight was for fun, and she let it be that way.
Hi everyone, this is Creek. I wanted to personally thank you for listening to Guardians and Keepers of Myth. If you want to support this story more, you can check out our Kofi. Or if you're excited to see what happens next, you can buy your own copy of the book. All the links will be in the description. Thank you all so much. This audio series wouldn't be here without your support. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll see you all next time.